Hello, everybody. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson joining you as we do have the risk for some strong to severe weather as we go through the evening hours tonight. And in fact, things are just getting started. Here is a quick rundown of what we'll do. We'll do some live coverage about where things are firing off right now. It's on the western edge of where we're expecting the potential for some strong, long-lived tornadoes. And in fact, the National Weather Service using the terms long-lived violent tornadoes possible as we go through the evening. Now, on the EF scale, or the F scale with regards to tornado strength, most violent tornadoes are rated, well, of course, 3, 4, or 5. And we're expecting many or numerous, or the potential thereof, EF3 or greater tornadoes tonight. And the Storm Prediction Center, as a matter of fact, has issued a high risk of severe weather across the northern plains. Let's get right to the radar and let me show you what we are watching with regards to the aerial coverage of storms today. Now, here is a look at the highlight area from the Storm Prediction Center as far as where the risk is greatest. The green colors here are what we would call kind of a garden variety risk. We'll have some storms that 1 or 2 may possibly become severe. And in fact, we have active tornado warnings in the areas of the green and Tennessee today with some sizable hail upwards of 2 inches in diameter. We also have had tornadoes this afternoon in the Black Hills of South Dakota as we headed into the afternoon hours. We do have some severe weather potential from central South Dakota where the storms are just getting fired, where you see the yellows. That is a slight risk of severe weather. That is a level 2 on a 5-level scale, meaning we could see some storms tonight that produce tornadoes. The risk of violent or strong tornadoes in these areas is not particularly high. But once we get into the orange colors here, Topeka, Kansas, southern parts of Nebraska, straight on down into Wichita Falls, Texas, that big orange circle you see there is an enhanced risk. That's that level 3 of a 5-level scale. Notice we do have storms firing along this boundary here from Grand Island, Nebraska through Hastings, this backward C shape representing some bowing taking place with those storms as they are accelerating. And the early onset of storms is oftentimes when we see the greatest risk for some of those violent tornadoes because, well, they have more of the energy of the atmosphere to work with. So here is some things to keep in mind as we work our way through the evening. In the red area, Hutchinson, Kansas, all the way to Emporia, these areas here, Burlington, on down to Tulsa, this is a moderate risk of severe weather tonight. That means we expect in that area that risk for tornadoes to be greater. And in the pink area, the hot spot, this is where things could really get violent. This is a high risk. And on some years, the Storm Prediction Center doesn't even issue one of these high risk categories for risk for tornadoes. This is the area where we will have the greatest risk at seeing tornadoes tonight that could become violent. Wichita, you're right in the mix, particularly just to the south of you. And off to the west is where the storms are firing now. Get into northern Oklahoma, all the way from the Cherokee area through Ponca City is a risk of severe storms. Sailing, seeing a chance. This storm here taking on just a little bit of a hook shape. These kidney bean shaped storms are ones that are these violent storms that are beginning to take root, and some of them already having a history of hail showing up on the radar. We'll track a few of these as we go through, but I want to be aware and make sure that you are aware of some safety parameters as we loop the radar for you that you can keep in mind as tonight unfolds. Thing number 1 is you want to stay well informed. Knowing that the risk is there for not just tornadoes, but violent tornadoes is an important thing to pay attention to. Rebecca, thanks for joining and thank you for your prayers for no tornadoes. Indeed, that happens. Sometimes high risks are issued by the Storm Prediction Center and not much fires, but we can see the onset of storms tonight and the environment is ripe for producing tightly spinning, long-lived tornadoes in the areas that you see highlighted on the radar screen over here, particularly in the red and pink areas from southern Kansas and into parts of central Oklahoma. This does include Oklahoma City as well as points south of Wichita for the night tonight. By the way, if you are watching tonight, I would love to have you go ahead and like the video if you get some information out of this that is helpful to you. And you could pass the word. I would love for you to pound the subscribe button. Press that subscribe button today. Subscribe to Hutch's Weather. Now, let's get right back into some of these details. Tornadoes that are on that EF scale, EF3 and greater, are very violent and they create the most damage. And you want to think of tornadoes as flying debris, and that debris is highly dangerous. So if you think of things picked up by tornadoes, it could be as small as this pen right here. This pen can be picked up by a tornado and hurled through the air at speeds of over 300 miles per hour. So even a pen, a piece of straw, or something small and insignificant, some rocks or dust, flying at 300 miles per hour, they become deadly projectiles. So the best and safest place to be is going to be below the level of the ground. So this is important safety information to keep in mind tonight. If storms approach, number one, stay informed, watch for warnings. When a warning is issued, that means the conditions are favorable for a tornado to be happening now, or it is inevitable, or maybe one has even been detected by Doppler radar or actually witnessed by the public. So when you hear a warning, that means it's happening, and the time to take your tornado precautions is now. A couple of notes about tornado precautions, and I'm speaking to those of you who may reside in areas where you do not have a tornado shelter close by. Let's say you live in a mobile home community and there are not tornado shelters in that mobile home community. Now is a great time to plan ahead. Maybe call the neighbors, call folks close by, and find a place where you can go to stay safe should a tornado warning be issued for your area. So it's important to keep these things in mind because you have to plan ahead on where you can go. You don't, and we don't want you as meteorologists driving across the country during a significant tornado outbreak and basically getting stuck in your car. So make sure that you are not in areas tonight if a tornado warning is issued for your area. That would include mobile homes, manufactured homes, RVs, campers, and the like. Make sure that you're in a sturdy structure that is anchored to the ground. Now, some of the storms that may form tonight are going to be violent enough to where very little can withstand the winds of these storms. And the best place to be is going to be in an underground part of a home. Many homes in Oklahoma and even parts of southern Kansas may not have basements, okay, but there are tornado shelter areas. So I want you to think of it this way. If projectiles are flying through the air, you want to put yourself in an interior room and force that projectile to travel through multiple walls before it gets to you. Put as many walls between you and the violent storm as possible. And that can help protect you and your family when the weather becomes severe or when a warning is issued. Now, again, the best place to be is under the level of the flying debris. Get low, get to the lowest floor possible to an interior room, and then get low yourself and protect your head. And here is one of the things that we like to recommend. Even in a basement, you can find basements with windows, right? You want to get away from any glass. You do not want to have the outside wall be the one right next to you, even if you're in the basement. So if you are on the lowest floor or the basement of a home, it's going to offer the most protection because if the winds that are exceeding 150 miles per hour are at ground level, if you're below ground level, then the flying debris stays above you, and you give yourself and your family a better chance to survive those tornadic winds. I hope you found that helpful, and we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit, because the beauty of streaming on a place or like YouTube right here is that you can watch this wherever you are. If you happen to be traveling through any of these areas in red tonight, including most of Oklahoma, almost all of the central and southern parts of Kansas tonight, where you see the reds and the pinks here, then you'll want to remain aware. Make sure if you see thunderstorms that you are paying attention to warnings issued by the National Weather Service, no matter how you can get that information, be it an app on your phone, be it a NOAA weather radio, or be it right here on a streaming channel. But remember, even if I am streaming, giving the best real-time information I can as a meteorologist, there is a delay. And that delay can cost you precious time. So make sure you heed the warnings And now let's take a look at what we have going on with regards to our risks tonight. And we'll talk more on safety in just a minute. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these. We already are seeing all of these triangles here with greater than 1 to 2 inch diameter hail popping out from these thunderstorms that are forming in the area of concern. Now, as we look on the western edge of the area of concern, these storms are just now making their way in towards, say, the western reaches of Oklahoma, Enid, down towards Hennessy, and out towards and north of Elk City. These storms are forming in that environment that is ripe with that spin in the atmosphere as well. As we go ahead and switch the radar over, we'll go ahead and look at some radar data that is coming from individual radars, and I am going to turn off the Storm Prediction Center's areas of concern and high risk areas, and we're going to focus a little bit more on the real-time data that is coming out here. So we're going to turn this off, and now we're going to look all risks and all modes of severe weather are possible for the night tonight. Okay, we do want to turn on the warnings, so you're going to see those as they come in. We have active tornado warnings just off to the east of Woodward, looking into parts of Oklahoma, the northwestern part, just east of Guyman, as we look at some hail-producing storms. Now, we'll go ahead and pop this up, and we'll take a look at the radar from this particular site here, so it loads up, and we'll see that we have this storm right here. Now, I'll put my camera on here just a little bit because I like to point out some areas that we watch as meteorologists. Right here, this little hook, that is called a hook echo on the south side here, that could potentially be where we have a tornado. Let's look at what the warning says from the National Weather Service as we read the text. This is for a tornado warning from the National Weather Service in Norman, Oklahoma. This is for Woods County, Alfalfa County, and the western major county area, as well as Woodward County in the southeastern quadrant until 5:45 Central Time. So it's for the next 40 minutes or so. Taking a look at the hazard, tornado and golf ball size hail, a possibility with this storm, and it's radar indicated rotation that prompted this particular warning from the National Weather Service. So keep that in mind. This is not confirmed, but there are wow, here is a tornado report. Oh, it looks like that's the rotating storm moving east-northeast at 40 miles per hour. So let me go ahead and analyze this. As a meteorologist, I like to go ahead and take a peek at the loop of radar data here so we can better inform ourselves about the actual movement of this particular storm. So we'll go back not 50 frames. Let me go back just a few. Let's go back about a half hour in time here as we pull up the radar data here. Now, what you're going to notice is on the rotating part of the storm is on the south side. Where we see the pink, that's very, very large hail. So the greatest hail potential is going to be on the northern fringe of this warning, the tornado warning, that is, where you see this red colored polygon. Now, this is in a rural portion of Oklahoma, so keep that in mind. But here is the rotating part of the storm. So we have this hook shape here. Is it producing a tornado? We have a couple of tools that we can look at. One of them is just flat out base velocity. So I'm going to look at the actual radar site that is pulling this radar in, and we're right here off where this green dot is. Okay, this green color is motion very fast directly towards the radar. And as we loop this, we can see if there's reds next to it. Okay, so there is some very tight wind moving toward the radar in green there. Now let's look at what we call storm relative velocity. It takes out the motion of the storm, which is the better part of 40 miles per hour. And now we see that there is some rotation. It's not super tight on this particular scan, but there is rotation right in this vicinity here. Interesting thing to note about this is the green would be motion toward the radar and the red would be motion away from the radar. So we do have some tight shear with regards to this particular storm as it's working its way off to the north and to the east. So taking where this rotation center is and tracking this for you at an east-northeasterly trajectory, I'm going to use a little faster speed so we give you some more timely information with regards to what town it may be in and when. Let's pull this up for you. So as we look through, within about 15 minutes, it'll be in Froso, the Cheyenne Valley area within about 30 minutes from now. Look at the time, add 30 minutes to that by around 5:32. So you have time to heed these warnings and seek shelter in your shelter space. And again, I'll remind you to make sure that you're speaking with your family about where that is. Educate them. Kids, if you're at home alone, it's real important to just remember to stay calm in a tornado warning and get to the lowest floor of a sturdy structure as you possibly can. Get to an interior room and put as many walls between you and the tornado as you possibly can. And get down low, okay? This tornado warned storm is actually increasing. The latest scan has just come in, and there is some evidence here that the spin or rotation in this particular storm is increasing a little bit. So it's a dangerous storm. Looks like there's some 1-inch diameter hail that could be possible or has been reported from that storm on the north side, as we were just speaking of, heading to the northeast at 40 miles per hour. So that's that particular storm. There's another tornado warning just to the north. If you are in the area here, this little kidney bean shaped storm here is the one that prompted this particular warning from the National Weather Service office. It's a radar indicated tornado warning for 1 3/4 inch diameter hail potential from that particular storm. As we look down a little bit closer, we see that it's moving, the hail core is moving right toward the airport here. And also we take a look at the Avard area of northern Oklahoma and out to the west there, and that's where the rotation is. Let's take a look at the base velocity on this particular storm. We see a lot of motion toward the radar here, not a lot of motion away from the radar. That's a good sign. We're looking for some tight rotation, what we would call a couplet of greens and reds that are strong next to each other. So that storm, dangerous still. That warning is still in effect, and you should still be taking your tornado precautions in and around the area of the storm near Alva. And again, a look at this particular warned storm, it's until 4:52. So that one should be, oh no, excuse me. The update was made at 4:52, and it's moving northeast at 40 miles per hour. And tornado and golf ball sized hail is expected from that particular tornado warned thunderstorm. Okay. Now, the activity for today is continuing in more areas than just where you're seeing down here in western Oklahoma. This is where the concern is the greatest. We have a number of severe warned storms in orange here, but it's these red polygons. Now, the dark red counties from Wichita through Oklahoma City and all of central Kansas on the southern and all of most of southern parts of Oklahoma are in a tornado watch. A watch means we have all the ingredients there. And again, this is a night when we could see long track, violent tornadoes that are quite strong indeed. Let's go up to the north a little bit, up into southern parts of Nebraska. We do have some active severe thunderstorm warnings, but it's a huge area of thunderstorm warnings from York and Aurora along the interstate there, right on Interstate 80 as we look our way across here down into the southern reaches near Hebron. Okay, so these are some storms here. Let's go ahead and get to the latest radar scan from a closer radar. They are moving to the north and east, and there's a solid line of storms. This it's kind of this bow shape, like a bow and arrow. That is called a bow echo, and that would indicate some very strong gusty wind potential from these storms. Now, we have a radar site that is right here in the middle of the radar. That particular storm is moving northeast at 38 miles per hour. Let's zoom back just a little bit and take a look at our radar that we can gather information from. Let's go to the, I think the Omaha radar might be a very good one to look at. Maybe as well the Hastings radar here. Let's go ahead and see if we can turn that on. Now, the beauty of this radar site is it's very close. So it's measuring as the radar beam goes up at a lower elevation angle in the cloud, therefore a lower elevation in the sky. So we're going to be looking at the spin in the storm down there. But more so, the case with this look to this storm is a risk for some very high gusty winds with this particular storm. So I'm going to look at the base velocities, and I'll look at the high resolution base velocities for this storm. Now, I want to point out that the red colors are motion away from the radar, and this little area right here seems like a hot spot to me. Does it to you? That hot spot right there, we can go ahead and turn our query on and ask the radar, how fast is this wind speed that you're detecting? Remember, Radars point up at an angle, so this is up in the sky, not necessarily what's happening down on the ground. And that's always an important distinction when we're looking at radar information. I'm seeing numbers pop up between 45 and 68 miles per hour in this little area right here. So up at cloud level, gusty winds upwards of 60 miles per hour are being detected by the radar, but the storm is moving at 40 miles per hour or so to the east-northeast. That would tell Hutch that this storm is going to be capable of some significant strong winds in excess of 60 or even 70 miles per hour. Let's take a look at what the National Weather Service warning says with this particular storm. So this is moving right into Ong, O-N-G, in central parts and southern parts of Nebraska. We also have very strong winds as we look up towards Sarenville and El Dorado, where we take a look at some of these wind speeds here. This is measuring farther away from the radar, higher in the sky, 80 plus mile per hour wind gust. Now, as a meteorologist who has studied in research meteorology, Doppler LiDAR data, for instance, our remote instruments can pick out a tiny spot where it's picking up a very strong and stout wind, and we should pay very close attention to these. Up at cloud level, this storm is producing winds that are approaching 80 to 90 miles per hour. So if you are in the Sarenville area, there is a very windy storm making its way towards your area. Here's a look at what the National Weather Service says with regards to this warning. This was updated about 6 minutes ago at 5:10 Central Time. Severe thunderstorm warning for all of these counties here, including York County, Fillmore County, Thaler County, as well as Polk County, among others, until 6 p.m. The radar at 5:10, just a few moments ago, picked up a long line of thunderstorms from near Marquette to Aurora, where we were just speaking of, 6 miles southeast of Clay Center. And it's basically moving east at 30 miles per hour. 60 mile per hour wind gusts is what they have this clocked at. But up above the ground, we are looking at radar data where the winds are gusting to 80 miles per hour. 80 mile per hour, 60 mile per hour straight line winds can topple a tractor trailer. So these are very significant straight line winds. And I want you to keep in mind, if you are in southern Nebraska and points basically south of Omaha, and it's approaching the Omaha area right now, this backwards C shape is blowing its way towards you. So these areas will have a greater threat of gusty straight line winds. You are in places like Beatrice and Lincoln, a tornado watch. That's what these red areas are. The atmosphere does have some spin to it, and there is a risk of some active storms that could produce tornadoes up in parts of eastern Nebraska as we head through the evening hours. So again, you're looking at wind speeds from Doppler radar, and as a meteorologist, we're highlighting the storms that have that greatest potential for producing very gusty straight line winds tonight, because that is one of the threats. Now, hail potential, you can see by looking at many of these storms reported across the area tonight, up from Norfolk all the way down through the Grand Island, Nebraska area, have already produced sizable hail and 70 mile per hour wind gusts right here. Okay, we just got a measurement. This is just out of DeWeese, has measured a 70 mile per hour wind gust. We just talked about 80 plus mile per hour winds that were measured within the storm heading towards Ong and also heading up in that Sutton area as well. So these are very gusty winds, and I do believe we'll have a potential to see 70 plus mile per hour gusts from the storms that we were just talking about. Let's meander up north a little bit farther to the north up here near the Rapid City area. Now, there were some storms earlier. These are still strong storms. We do have some areas that are getting gusty winds, and we did have tornadoes reported earlier today off to the east of Belfouche. These storms are a little more few and far between, but there's spin in the atmosphere as far north as the Dakotas tonight, folks, as we do have some pretty volatile situations taking place. By the way, all these boxes you see in the high country here, winter weather advisories for the mountains outside of Cheyenne and outside to the west of Denver and Fort Collins, and even some winter storm warnings. So this is a very potent storm. Okay, this is a look at how things are shaping up right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the radar down south once again as we kind of jump back and forth with this update. But really, what I'm doing in this live broadcast and my goal is to make sure I arm you with information to help you and your family stay safe. So on that note, we'll quickly look at the tornado warned storm outside to the east of Woodward, Oklahoma, heading directly towards Enid, Oklahoma. This storm warning is for a radar indicated tornado. We'll show you where that storm is, and the very latest on the radar with this is it is right next to and approaching Highway 412. That is moving off to the east-northeast. It was moving at about 40 miles per hour. Let's get the latest from the National Weather Service on this particular storm. Yep, moving due east at 40 miles per hour. It was 7 miles north of Orion. Now, let's take a look at this on radar and show you if we're seeing any intense or intensification of the shear in the storm or the spin in the storm. The radar, the Doppler radar, is picking up some spin in the storm, and it's located right here by this blue triangle to the south of Highway 412. So myself, that's one of the areas, or that is the area of concern. And now we can time this out for you and tell you where it may be and when. So to do that, I'm going to hop right on where we see the blues next to the reds. We know it's moving east. I'm going to put just a little bit more of a northerly bend to it because it looks like that's what's going on. And I'm going to put an increase in the speed just a little bit to help calculate. Number one, because there's a delay in time in a broadcast such as this. And I want to make sure that you have time to respond. So if you are in the Cheyenne Valley within about 10 to 15 minutes from 5:16. So right at 5:30 Central Daylight Time, it will be near Cheyenne Valley. The following communities like Clio Springs have about a similar amount of time to respond as well. So you should be seeking shelter in your interior room, staying away from windows. Now, as we take a look with regards to tornado safety, let's go ahead and see if we can pull up some information for you with regards to what the National Weather Service says regarding tornadoes. Because it is a moving platform, maybe you are experiencing a night like this and you have not reviewed tornado plans. Maybe you're new to parts of Oklahoma and Kansas where they don't call it Tornado Alley for nothing. Let's go ahead and take a look at the National Weather Service's recommendations. So this is a weather update, and this is straight from the National Weather Service's page. Thanks to my friends at the National Weather Service for putting this together. Basically, when tornadoes occur, there's a few things that we need to keep in mind. A tornado is a violently rotating column of air that makes contact with the ground. And you see the debris being picked up with the ground by the ground here as that tornado is spinning up debris. That's when we know we have a tornado. This one has a clear tube-shaped cloud between the ground and the cloud. So it's a clear tornado. Sometimes in some parts of the country, like the storms that you're seeing in the Black Hills tonight, don't have the humidity to produce a funnel cloud all the way from the cloud to the ground. So you may see a funnel cloud in the sky, and the next thing you see is some debris kicked up on the ground. Then that, by definition, is a tornado, okay? So when tornadoes form, it is the debris that's picked up by these tornadoes that can be devastating. And the stronger the tornadoes get, then the even well-built homes on foundations can suffer tremendous damage from these storms. So seeking shelter is very, very important. Now, we know the difference between watches and warnings. We've talked about that. A watch, shown here in yellow, means that the ingredients are, well, there for tornadoes. So if storms form in your area, pay attention to warnings issued by the National Weather Service offices and make sure that you stay informed if storms approach your area, because a watch means the ingredients are there for a tornadic storm. The area of house 1 here is red, and that is a tornado warning. So if you were in house 1, that means take your necessary precautions and take them now. That does not mean run outside and look for picture opportunities. With these storms tonight, there'll be very, very strong potential for violent tornadoes. So it is important, if you're in a home, to get to the lowest floor possible of an interior room. And that is the advice. How to prepare for a tornado. Seeking shelter from the storm. A couple of things that we'll put up on the screen here for you. Let me see if I can move this up just a little bit. And we'll go through this together because I do think this is important. Be weather ready and make sure that you're paying attention to broadcasts of current weather information if storms approach your area. We've talked about that already. Sign up for notifications. You can do that on your cell phone and amongst other places. Create a communications plan. Everyone in your household should know where they could go during a tornado and what to do when the tornado is over, where to meet. Things such as this can help your family plan to help each other get through the storm. Practice your plan and know exactly where in your home is the safest place to be. And if there is no place in your home, for instance, if you live in a mobile or manufactured home, you all have communicated about where you can go to stay safe. And then again, you can go for more information to the Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, to find out more information about their recommendations. Now, during the tornado, it's really important to get low and protect your head. So they show this family, for instance, here, seeking shelter and staying low. Let me see if I can uncover that. Okay, so get to your safe place. This is a hallway, obviously, an interior room. There's no windows between these folks, and they have as many walls between them. So at your house, make sure that you go to your basement if you have one, or a safe room. And that would be an interior room with as many walls between you and the tornado as you can possibly put there. Get low and protect your head. Now, it's also pertinent to make sure that you do things like have your cell phone handy so you know when the warning is gone and when it's safe to come out. Okay, so make sure that you have things in that tornado safe area to plan ahead. Now, not all tornadoes happen when we are inside our home. So if you're watching this and you happen to be traveling, there's some things to keep in mind when you are out and about in a tornado in a vehicle. And some safety agencies have different and varying opinions about what to do. So I'm going to share with you a couple, and I think that you should pay attention to what makes the most sense to you. A tornado can be, on a night like tonight, very large, and it can be difficult to tell the difference between the tornado and the low cloud on the ground. These clouds can be so wide that they're more than a mile wide at the base of the tornado. So it looks like the cloud is actually sitting on the ground. It might be wrapped in rain, so you cannot even see the tornado. So storms tonight, do not go driving into them unaware of what's going on. And if a tornado warning is issued, let that storm go by. Now, if you happen to see a tornado and you're in your car or vehicle and you can see the tornado moving, that's a good sign. You can see it moving left to right or right to left. Then you know that, well, we should just wait here and let that puppy move on by. Okay. Now, if it's real close to you and you're in the debris path, then you want to start seeking shelter outside of a car. A car does not offer very much protection from 300-mile-per-hour winds. The whole car can be blown away. And if it's just a thin sheet of glass in your car that's protecting you from the flying debris like 2x4s or whatever other debris is picked up by the tornado, it could easily come through the car door, the window, or the windshield. So in a situation like that, there are some differing opinions. If you have debris around you, you still need to get as low as you can to give yourself the best chance for survival. Now, some would say, depending on the storm, you should drive your whole car in the ditch and stay in the car, and they feel that offers the best protection. Some say get out of the car, lie in the lowest possible place, as flat as you can, and cover your head. It really depends on the situation, in my opinion. The bottom line is, if the tornado is close enough to be pelting your car with debris, you need to be able to get that car out of the path of the debris. And if the winds are so strong, you don't want to be running outside in strong winds that are over 100 miles per hour. You could be blown away. So the point is, use your best judgment in making a decision as to whether you stay in the vehicle but drive it down in a low ditch. Do not get out of the car and seek shelter under an overpass, uptight under an overpass. Those overpasses funnel wind and debris through them, and it actually can increase the speed that those debris or that debris is moving within the atmosphere. So underneath an overpass, getting out of your car and tucking up under the girders is not advised whatsoever. If you are in your vehicle and you see no movement of that tornado, it's just sitting there, then we want you to assume that tornado is coming exactly towards you. It's either moving towards you or it's away from you, but you can't see it moving left to right. That's an extremely dangerous situation. If you have enough space between you in your car and that tornado, you can travel at right angles as fast as you can, turn right or turn left, and get out of the path of that oncoming tornado. If it's extremely close, you may only have time to seek shelter, as we just spoke about, in the lowest place possible. Ditches on the sides of the road can offer some protection from tornadic winds, but they're not a guarantee that you'll be able to withstand the tornado debris that's flying around. You can also get into things like culverts or low water crossings, but remember, you don't want to survive the tornado to be swept away by the flood. So you can get down into a culvert underneath the road and seek shelter in there, staying as low as you can. And then once that threat is gone, get out of there. So those are some safety pieces of advice in a vehicle and in your home. And again, we don't want you driving around during tornadic thunderstorm events. So looking at the radar one more time, and I will let you go because we are expecting things to become more volatile as we go through the late evening hours here. Storms, now let me put this back into a storm mode that you're used to looking at. This is called reflectivity. We have active severe thunderstorm warnings. A number of these storms, including this one and the one to the north of it. This one here is moving towards Canton. It is really right near the Putnam area and Taloga. This is off to the northwest of Oklahoma City. This storm is on the southernmost side of it. It does have a little hook-shaped echo on it. I would not be surprised if the Weather Service doesn't say tornado possible with many of these storms tonight. This one, not that case. There is a tornado watch in the area. There is that storm looks like it's getting ready to cross Highway 183 right now, just to the north of Putnam. How far north? If you're in Putnam, you are right in where would be considered the rotating part of the storm. And that rotating part of the storm, or the notch, is only 4.5 miles away from you. And it's moving almost due east to east-northeast, that particular storm cell is. So these storms are dangerous tonight. Here's another one with a kidney bean hook echo shape to it. This one is moving right over the Cheyenne Valley. We were talking about this one. This is the tornado warned storm. Let's see if we have any velocity data here that is worthy. It is showing that there is some shear with the storm just moving into Cheyenne Valley as we speak. Let me look at the storm relative. So we take out the motion of the storm, and there is some shear in that storm on that side, just off to the north and to the west of Cheyenne Valley, right here where the cursor is on your screen. Okay, that's a look at those storms. Let's go north a little bit as we look up in towards Manhattan, Kansas, Minneapolis, Kansas. These storms are very stout. They are tornado watch in these areas, but there are no active tornado warnings as we speak. And blowing towards the area of Lincoln, Nebraska right now is a solid backwards C shape that we call a bow echo. And this bow echo is bowing like a bow and arrow right towards Geneva now. Usually it's at the apex of the bow right here where it's kind of poking out the most. That's where we oftentimes see the strongest of the wind gusts with these storms as they accelerate, thanks to the downdraft from the thunderstorms. If you're in the path of the storms in southeast Nebraska, be aware they're going to be extremely windy as we go through the evening hours. This will conclude my update right now that's live. I will continue to monitor this, but I hope I've given you some positive information that can allow you to protect you, your family, during the onset of any severe weather tonight. Watch closely, stay informed tonight. As always, stay tuned and stay safe. I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel right here by hitting the subscribe button at the bottom of the page. And go ahead and pound the like button if you like the information that you heard here on this live broadcast. Thanks so much. Stay safe.